When my son told me, "Ma, don't worry. You and Baba will never be alone," I believed him. I believed him with the same heart that carried him for 9 months, with the same hands that fed him before feeding myself, with the same faith I had in the sunrise. Years later, when life grew quiet around us, I remembered those words. Not with anger, not with blame, just with a soft ache. Because sometimes promises are not broken loudly. Sometimes they simply fade like footsteps walking away on a long road. The day my daughter-in-law gently suggested that we might feel more comfortable in a smaller place, I smiled. I even nodded. I did not want her to see the way my chest tightened. My husband sat beside me on the sofa.
He did not speak.
His hands were folded. His eyes were calm, but I knew him. I have known him for 45 years. I could see the silence inside him. "It will be easier for everyone," she said softly. "You'll have your own space." Own space.
That is what people call it now.
I said,
"Of course, Beta.
"We don't want to be a burden." The word burden tasted strange in my mouth. I had never used it before when it came to my children. There was a time when this same house was filled with noise. Our son Arjun used to run through the hallway with his school bag dragging behind him.
"Ma,
"Where are my socks?" "In your drawer." I would call back, "They're not here." And I would go. Every single time. Because that is what mothers do. We go. My husband, Raghav, would sit at the dining table reading the newspaper. He would lower it slightly and smile at me. "You spoil him," he would say. I would shrug. "Let him be small while he still is." We did not know then how quickly small hands grow into busy hands. Raghav and I did not have much when we started. We were married in a small ceremony. No big hall. No loud music. Just close family and simple food. He worked at a government office. I stayed home. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I wanted to build a home that felt warm when our child entered it. We rented a tiny apartment in our early years. The kitchen was so small that when I turned, my elbow would hit the wall. But I loved that kitchen. I cooked every meal there with care. When Arjun was born, I held him and whispered, "We will give you everything we can." And we did. We saved slowly, carefully. When he needed extra classes, we paid. When he wanted a bicycle, we found a way. When he failed his math test in 8th grade and cried in his room, I sat beside him and said, "Marks come and go. You stay." He looked at me and asked, "You won't be disappointed?" "Never," I said. And I meant it. Dinner was always together. Even if Raghav came home late, even if Arjun had exams, we would wait. I still remember one rainy evening. The power had gone out. We lit candles and ate in that soft glow. Arjun laughed and said, "It feels like a hotel." Raghav chuckled. "Then tip your mother well." That night, the house felt full. Not because of furniture, but because of togetherness. Time moved, as it always does. Arjun finished college. He got a job in the city. A good job. We were proud. Very proud. The day he received his offer letter, he touched our feet. "I will take care of you both," he said. Raghav placed his hand on Arjun's head. "Just live honestly. That is enough." But I held on to his words. "I will take care of you." Mothers remember sentences like that. When he brought home Mira for the first time, I watched her quietly. She was polite, educated, soft-spoken. She brought sweets. She helped me in the kitchen without being asked. "Ma, please sit." "I'll cut the vegetables," she said. I smiled. "You're a guest." She replied gently, "I hope not for long." That was the first time I felt something shift. Not in a bad way. Just a change. Change is not always loud. Sometimes it enters quietly, wearing a smile. Their wedding was beautiful. We invited everyone we knew. I wore a silk sari I had saved for years. Raghav looked proud. When Mira stepped into our home as a bride, I welcomed her with a small lamp and rice at the door. "This is your home now," I told her. And I meant it. I truly did. The first year was good. We adjusted. All of us. I learned how she liked her tea. Less sugar. More milk. She learned that Raghav preferred dinner at exactly 8. Arjun was busy with work, but he tried. On Sundays, we would all sit together and watch old movies. Sometimes Mira would laugh at scenes she didn't understand, and I would explain. It felt like we were building something new together. I told my sister once on the phone, I am lucky. My daughter-in-law is kind. And at that time it was true, but life does not stay still. Arjun got promoted. His work hours grew longer. Mira started working too.
A good job.
Long hours. The house became quieter during the day. I did not mind. Raghav and I had each other. We would drink tea in the afternoon and sit by the window. Children are busy, he would say. Yes, I would reply. That is good. But sometimes in the evening dinner was no longer together. We already ate outside. Arjun would say casually. Oh. I would answer. That's fine. The food on the stove would grow cold. I would pack it away silently.
Small things began to change.
Not arguments. Not harsh words. Just small adjustments. Mira rearranged the kitchen. It made sense. She cooked differently than I did. Ma, it's easier this way, she explained.
Of course, I said.
I moved my spice box to the side shelf. It was not about the spices. It was about space slowly shifting. One evening, I heard Mira speaking softly to Arjun in their room. They need more comfort, she was saying. Maybe a quieter place. I did not mean to listen. The door was not fully closed. Arjun's voice sounded tired.
We'll see.
That night, I lay awake longer than usual. Raghav turned toward me. What is it? Nothing, I whispered. But it was not nothing. Years ago, when Arjun scraped his knee and ran to me crying, I held him and said, I'm here. Now, as life moved forward, I wondered quietly, were we still here for them? Or had we become something that simply stayed while they moved ahead? The next morning felt normal. Too normal. I woke up before everyone like I always did. I made tea. I opened the windows to let fresh air in. The curtains moved gently in the breeze. Raghav sat at the dining table, folding the newspaper carefully. Did you sleep? He asked. Yes, I replied.
It was a small lie.
But after so many years of marriage, he understood silence better than words. Arjun rushed out that day. Ma, I'll be late tonight, he said while tying his shoes. Eat something? I told him. No time. He kissed my forehead quickly and left.
The door closed.
The house grew quiet again. I stood there for a moment longer than usual. Sometimes silence feels peaceful. Other times, it feels like something is missing. In the beginning, the changes were polite. Very polite. Ma, you don't need to wake up so early, Mira would say. I'm used to it. I would smile. You should rest more.
Rest.
That word came often. You've done enough in your life. We don't want you to tire yourself. Please relax. At first, it sounded caring. But slowly, I began to understand something. When people tell you to rest too much, sometimes they're asking you to step aside. Raghav and I began spending more time in our room. Not because anyone forced us. Just because it felt easier. Mira liked watching her shows in the evening. Loud, fast shows. I could not follow them. Arjun worked on his laptop at the dining table. So we moved. Our room became our world. We kept our books there. Our teacups. Our small radio. It was peaceful, but it was smaller. One evening, I gathered courage. Arjun, I said softly, we hardly sit together now. He looked up from his phone. Ma, work is very stressful these days. I understand, I said quickly. I just meant sometimes. He nodded. We'll plan something this Sunday. Sunday came. He slept late. Then he had a meeting online. Mira went out with friends. Raghav and I ate lunch alone.
Again.
I began questioning myself. Maybe I was expecting too much. Maybe this is how modern life works. Children grow. They become busy. They have responsibilities. I reminded myself of the words I had once told Arjun. Live your life. So, why did it hurt when he did exactly that? One afternoon, I was making tea in the kitchen when Mira walked in. Ma, she said gently. I was thinking maybe it would be better if we had a separate helper for you and Baba. A helper? I asked.
Yes.
Someone who can focus only on your needs. It will be more comfortable. We are managing fine, I replied. She hesitated. It's just sometimes the house feels crowded. And I don't want you to feel disturbed. Crowded. Our home. The same home where Arjun once learned to walk holding onto these walls. I smiled again. We are not disturbed. But later, when I told Raghav, he stayed quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, people do not always say what they mean. That night, it rained heavily. I used to love rainy nights, but that evening felt heavy. I remembered when Arjun was small. He would run to our bed during storms.
Ma, I'm scared.
I would hold him close. Don't worry. I'm here. Now the storm outside felt louder than the one inside my heart. A few days later, Arjun sat beside us after dinner. He cleared his throat.
Ma, Baba.
I wanted to discuss something. My hands became still. Yes, Raghav replied calmly. You both have done everything for me. I am grateful. Always. But I was thinking maybe you would be more. The room felt very still. Designed. I repeated.
Yes.
There are communities now. Very nice ones. Medical support. People of the same age. Activities. I looked at Raghav. His face did not change. He simply asked, Are we disturbing you, son?
No. No, Baba.
It's not like that. Mira joined softly. We just want what's best for everyone. Everyone.
Such a
big word. After they left the room, I sat quietly. The clock ticked loudly. I finally spoke. Maybe they are right. Raghav looked at me. Do you want to go? I thought carefully.
No.
Then why are you agreeing? Because I don't want him to feel torn. Raghav closed his eyes for a moment. I raised him to be strong, he said slowly. Not torn. From that day, something invisible stood between us. Nobody shouted. Nobody argued. But politeness grew thicker. Mira became extra careful with her words. Arjun avoided long conversations. I tried to act cheerful. Sometimes I even laughed louder than I felt. Because I did not want guilt to live in this house. One night at dinner, I asked gently, How is work? Busy, Arjun replied. And you, Mira?
Fine.
That was all. The table that once echoed with stories now carried only sounds of spoons touching plates. I missed the noise. Even the arguments. Silence can be louder than anger. I remembered the day Arjun left for college. I cried quietly after he boarded the bus. Raghav had said, This is good. It means he is growing. Growth always involves distance. But I did not know distance could exist under the same roof. One Sunday, Arjun insisted we visit one of those senior communities. It's just to see, he said. We agreed. The place was clean. Beautiful gardens. Smiling staff. An elderly couple waved at us. It's peaceful here, the manager explained. Your children can visit anytime. Visit. The word felt sharp. On the drive back, nobody spoke. When we reached home, I walked straight to the kitchen. I touched the counter, the stove, the spice shelf. How can a place filled with memories be replaced by neat gardens? That night, Raghav sat beside me on the bed. Do you remember, he asked softly, the first night Arjun slept alone? I smiled faintly. He kept coming back to our room.
Yes.
And now? I swallowed. Now we're the ones being moved. He reached for my hand. We still have each other, he said. Yes, I whispered. But I could feel something slipping. Not love. Not family. Just closeness. I realized something slowly. They had not stopped loving us. They had simply started living faster than we could walk. And in their speed, we became background. Not unwanted. Just unnecessary. And sometimes that hurts even more. The decision was not made in one loud moment. It happened quietly, like dust settling on furniture you no longer use. A week after visiting that senior community, Arjun sat with us again. His face looked tired. Not cruel. Not angry. Just tired.
Ma. Baba.
I think it will really be better, he said softly. For your health. For comfort. Comfort. The word had started to feel heavy. Raghav asked calmly, have you already decided? Arjun hesitated for only a second. We've spoken to them. A unit is available next month. Next month. I felt something inside me go still. I did not cry. I did not argue. Instead, I surprised myself. If this makes your life easier, I said gently, we will go. Arjun looked relieved. Relief. Not sadness. Not conflict. Relief. Mira reached for my hand. Ma, please don't think it's because we don't care. I nodded. I know. And maybe I did know. Care does not always look like closeness anymore. Sometimes it looks like arrangement. That evening I opened my wardrobe. The saris I had worn for weddings. The shawl Raghav gifted me on our 20th anniversary. Old photo albums. I sat on the floor and began sorting.
Keep. Leave. Give away.
How do you pack 40 years of living into 2 suitcases? You don't. You simply choose what hurts less to leave behind. Raghav folded his shirts carefully. He did not speak much. But once, he held up an old sweater Arjun had given him in college. Should I take this? He asked. It still fits, I said softly. He nodded and placed it inside. We were not just packing clothes. We were packing proof that we once belonged fully here. The next morning, Mira entered our room. Ma, I can help you pack. It's okay, I said gently. I want to do it slowly. She stood awkwardly near the door. I hope you won't feel lonely there. Lonely. I almost smiled. Loneliness had already begun. It does not wait for a new address. I remembered the day Raghav taught Arjun how to ride a bicycle. Don't leave me, Arjun had shouted. I'm right here, Raghav said. But at some point he let go. Arjun did not realize immediately. He kept pedaling on his own. That is how children grow. You let go quietly. And they move forward. Perhaps this was the same. Perhaps we had let go without noticing. The night before we were to leave, Mira cooked a special meal. All our favorites. There was kheer. There were warm rotis. She tried to make the table feel festive. Arjun said, we will visit every week. I nodded. Raghav replied calmly, visit when you can. There was a difference in those sentences. Visit every week. Visit when you can. One carried promise. The other carried experience. Later that night, Arjun came to our room alone. He sat at the edge of the bed. Ma, he said quietly, are you angry with me? I looked at his face. The same face I had wiped tears from. The same eyes that once searched for me in crowded rooms.
No, he answered truthfully.
I am not angry. Then why do I feel like I am doing something wrong? I paused. Because somewhere inside you remember the little boy who said he would always keep us with him. He looked down. I still want to. I know, I said softly. But life changes what we want. He held my hand for a moment. I love you, he whispered. I love you too, I replied. Love was not the problem. Timing was.
Space was.
Modern life was. The morning came faster than I expected. The house looked the same, but it felt different. Our suitcases stood near the door. 2 medium-sized bags. 45 years reduced to manageable weight. Mira hugged me first.
Call me if you need anything, she said.
I nodded. Arjun hugged Raghav tightly.
Bub.
Raghav patted his back. Take care of your health. He did not say, take care of us. He did not need to. When I stepped out of the house, I turned once. The balcony. The window where I had stood waiting for Arjun to return from school. The kitchen light. I whispered inside my heart, thank you. Not for pain, but for years of fullness. The senior community was calm.
Too calm.
A staff member greeted us warmly. Welcome. You will be very happy here. I smiled politely. They showed us our unit. Small living room. Bedroom. Attached bathroom. A balcony facing a garden. It was neat. Organized. Efficient. There was space for our things. But not for our history. After Arjun and Mira left, The silence grew heavy. Raghav sat on the sofa. I arranged the teacups. We moved slowly, as if noise would break something fragile. "Are you tired?" he asked. "A little." He nodded. We did not speak of what we were both thinking. That this was not a visit. This was life now. That first night, I lay awake. Not because the bed was uncomfortable, but because it was too quiet. No sound of Arjun's late-night footsteps. No sound of Mira in the kitchen. Just distant murmurs from other rooms. I turned toward Raghav. "Are you awake?" "Yes." After a pause, he said softly, "We raised him well." "Yes," I agreed. "And he is not a bad son."
No.
We both knew that truth. He was not cruel. He was not heartless. He was simply part of a world that moves forward without looking back too long. In the morning, I stepped onto the balcony. The garden was beautiful. Other elderly couples walked slowly along the path. One woman smiled at me. "New here?" she asked. "Yes." "You'll get used to it," she said gently. I wondered if that was comfort or warning. As I stood there, I understood something. We had spent our whole life building a future for our child. We never built one for ourselves. We thought we would simply stay where we planted roots. But life had its own design. And it did not always include the past and the present. That evening, as the sun set behind unfamiliar trees, I made tea for Raghav. We sat together on our small balcony. "I'm here," he said softly. I looked at him. "Yes," I replied. Maybe that was enough. Maybe love does not always mean staying in the same house. Maybe sometimes it means learning how to sit in a new place without letting bitterness grow. But I did not know yet if my heart was strong enough for that lesson. The first week passed slowly. Time moved differently there. At home, the day used to fill itself. Cooking, cleaning, waiting, small conversations. Here, the hours felt wider. Too wide. Raghav and I began waking up even earlier than before. Habit does not leave easily. I made tea in our small kitchen corner. The kettle sounded louder in the quiet room. We sat on the balcony with our cups. The garden below looked peaceful. People walked in circles. Slow steps. Careful steps. I watched them and wondered, were they also once the center of someone's war? The staff was kind. There were activity boards in the hallway. Yoga at 8 a.m. Music afternoon. Health check every Wednesday. It was organized, safe, predictable. But life had never felt like a schedule before. One morning, a cheerful volunteer knocked on our door. "Uncle Ani, please join the group exercise." Raghav smiled politely. "Maybe tomorrow." After she left, he looked at me and said softly, "I do not want to stretch my body just to forget stretching my heart." I understood. Arjun and Mira came the first Sunday. They brought fruits, biscuits, flowers. The room felt fuller when they entered. "Say, Ma, it's nice here," Arjun said, looking around. "Yes," I replied. "It is." Mira arranged the flowers in a small vase. "How are you settling in?" Slowly, I answered. We spoke about small things. Work updates. Traffic. Weather. There were no deep conversations. When it was time to leave, Arjun hugged me tightly. "We'll come next week." I nodded. After they left, I held the door handle for a few seconds longer than needed. They did not come the next Sunday. Arjun called instead. "Ma, something urgent came up at work." "That's fine," I said quickly. "Work is important." He promised to visit the following weekend. He sounded tired. I did not want to add weight to his voice. After the call ended, I sat quietly. Raghav looked at me. "Did he say when he's coming?" "Next week," I replied. Raghav nodded. We did not count days out loud, but we both counted them inside. That night, I realized something painful. At home, when they were late, I would wait with food. Here, I waited with hope. Both could grow cold. Slowly, we began noticing others. There was Mr. Iyer from the next unit. He had lost his wife 3 years ago. She loved gardening. He told me one afternoon as we walked slowly in the garden. "Now I just sit near the plants and talk to them." "Do they answer?" I asked gently. He smiled. in their own way. There was also Mrs. D'Souza, who waited every evening near the gate. "My son is in Canada," she would say proudly. "Very big job." "Does he visit often?" I asked once. She hesitated. "Video calls." Her smile was careful. I began to understand that we were not alone in our story. Different names. Same silence. One afternoon, I opened our old photo album. The one I had packed carefully. Baby Arjun. School annual day. College graduation. Wedding day. Each picture held a version of us. Younger. Stronger. Needed. I touched one photo where Arjun was maybe 5 years old, holding my hand tightly. I whispered, "You did not let go then." And somewhere inside, a small voice replied, "He did not know how." One evening, Raghav felt dizzy. Just for a moment. But it was enough to frighten me. I called the on-site nurse immediately. She checked his blood pressure. "Nothing serious," she said kindly. "Just weakness. Make sure he rests." Rest again. After she left, I sat beside him. "You see," he said softly, trying to smile. "At least here they come quickly." "Yes," I replied. But inside, I wished it was Arjun who had knocked on the door. Not because he was a doctor, but because he was our son. The next day, I called Arjun to tell him about the dizziness. He did not pick up. He called back late at night. "Ma, I was in a meeting. Is everything okay?" "Yes," I said. "Just small weakness." "You should tell me immediately." I did. There was silence. "I'll try to come this weekend," he said.
Try.
That word sat quietly between us. He did not come that Sunday either. Mira sent a message.
"Sorry, ma."
"Very hectic week." I replied with a simple heart emoji. It felt strange using emojis for emotions that once filled rooms. One night, I decided to write a letter. Not to complain. Not to accuse.
Just to speak.
I wrote, "Dear Arjun, we are fine here. Do not worry about us. Take care of your health. Remember to eat on time. And sometimes, when you sit quietly, remember that your parents are thinking of you with love." I folded it. Then, I did not send it. Because I did not want love to feel like pressure. The next morning, I joined the yoga group. Not because I wanted to, but because I realized something. If life had moved us here, we must at least try to live it fully. After class, a woman my age smiled at me. "You're new, but you look strong," she said. I laughed softly. "Strength comes quietly," I replied. "Sometimes even we don't see it." That night, Raghav and I sat on the balcony. The sky was orange and soft. "Are you unhappy?" he asked me. I thought carefully. "I am adjusting." He nodded. "I do not blame him," I added. "Neither do I," he said. We sat in silence. Then he spoke again. "But sometimes I wonder, when we are gone, will he realize what these years meant?" I swallowed. I hope he never understands it the hard way. Days turned into weeks. Visits became less regular. Calls became shorter. But something else began growing.
Not
bitterness. Not anger. Acceptance. A soft understanding that children build their own circles. And sometimes parents slowly move outside that circle. Not pushed. Just placed gently on the edge. One evening, as I watched the sunset from our balcony, I felt tears rise. Not loud tears. Just warm ones. I let them fall. Because holding them back no longer served anyone. Raghav noticed. He did not ask why. He simply held my hand. "We are still together," he said. "Yes," I whispered. And for that moment, that was enough. That was raining the day everything inside me finally shifted. Not loudly. Just a steady, quiet rain. The kind that makes you sit still and think longer than you should. Raghav was resting after breakfast. I stood near the balcony, watching water gather on the leaves below. The garden looked blurred. And for the first time since moving there, I did not try to stay strong. I let myself feel the emptiness. Around noon, my phone rang. It was Arjun. "Ma, I have some news," he said, sounding excited. I smiled immediately. "What happened?" "We might move abroad." The company is offering a position in Singapore. It's a big opportunity. For a moment, I could not speak. That's wonderful, I said finally.
Yes.
It's a huge step. Better salary. Bigger role. It's what I've worked for. I heard Mira's voice faintly in the background, happy. When would you go? I asked softly. In 3 months, maybe sooner. 3 months. I leaned against the wall. And you'll be busy preparing, I added gently. Yes, a lot of paperwork and arrangements.
He paused.
Ma, you're happy for me, right? I closed my eyes. Of course, Beta. Always. And I meant it. That was the hardest part. I truly meant it. When I told Raghav, he listened quietly. Then he nodded once. He should go, he said. This is his time. Yes. We both agreed. But agreement does not remove ache. That evening, the room felt smaller. Not because of space, but because the distance ahead suddenly became real. Right now, they were 1 city away. Soon, they would be 1 country away. And time zones are colder than walls. A week later, Arjun and Mira visited. They brought brochures about Singapore. Apartments, office buildings, schools. They spoke with excitement. You should see the place, Ma, Mira said. It's beautiful. I'm sure it is, I replied. Arjun hesitated before speaking again. We were thinking it might be difficult to manage visits after we move. I nodded slowly. Yes, international travel is not easy. And we think it's best if you stay here. This place has medical support and everything.
Stay here.
The words landed differently now. It was no longer temporary adjustment. It was permanent arrangement. Raghav asked calmly, You don't want us to come with you? The room grew quiet. Arjun shifted slightly. Baba, it would be complicated. New country, new system, smaller apartment at first. And you both are comfortable here. Comfortable. I felt something tighten in my chest. We are comfortable, I repeated softly. Mira quickly added, We just want you safe. Safe. Sometimes safety can feel like distance. After they left, I went to the balcony alone. The sky was clear now.
No rain.
Just open blue space. I realized then that the real breaking point was not moving into this place. It was understanding that we would not move forward with them. Their life was expanding. Ours had been gently placed on pause. I remembered nights when Arjun studied for exams. He would say, Ma, don't sleep. Sit with me. And I would sit beside him, even if I was tired, even if my eyes burned, because he did not want to feel alone. Now I understood something painful. He had grown strong enough not to need someone sitting beside him anymore. And that is what we had prepared him for. A few days later, something unexpected happened. Arjun called one evening, stressed about paperwork. I listened patiently. Then, without thinking, I said softly, Just don't forget us completely when you go. There was a long silence. Ma, how can you even say that? He replied, hurt. I didn't mean. It feels like you think I'm abandoning you. I never said that. But it sounds like it. His voice wasn't angry, just wounded. I felt immediate regret. I'm sorry, I said quickly. I didn't mean to make you feel guilty. He exhaled slowly. I'm trying to balance everything. I know. After we hung up, I sat quietly for a long time. Sometimes pain speaks before wisdom does. That night, Raghav surprised me. I am afraid, he said softly. I turned toward him. Of what? Of becoming a memory before we are gone. His words were simple, but they pierced deeply. I don't want him to remember us only in photographs. I held his hand tightly. He won't, I whispered. But inside, I was not fully sure. One evening, about a month later, Raghav slipped slightly while walking in the garden. It was not a serious fall, but it shook him. It shook me more. As staff helped him up, I suddenly felt overwhelmed. I imagined if something worse happened, who would sit beside his hospital bed? Who would hold my hand? Would our son fly back immediately? Or would work delay him? These questions frightened me, not because of doubt in his love, but because of the reality of distance. That night, After Raghav fell asleep, I cried quietly, not loudly, just steady tears. For the first time, I allowed myself to admit it. I felt left behind. Not abandoned, not unloved, but left behind. Life had moved forward at a speed we could not match, and we had been gently placed in a safe corner. Out of the way,
Protected.
but not included. The next morning, something changed inside me. Not sadness, not anger.
Clarity.
I realized that our worth could not depend on how often someone visited. Our love could not shrink just because our role had changed. We had spent years giving. Maybe now was the time to learn how to simply exist without expectation. It was a hard lesson, but necessary. That evening I called Arjun. "Beta," I said calmly, "I am proud of you." He sounded surprised. "For what?" "For building your life bravely." He was quiet. "I may miss you," I continued gently, "but missing someone is not the same as blaming them."
His voice softened. "Ma. Go forward," I said.
"Do not look back with guilt. We are stronger than you think." After we ended the call, I felt lighter. Not because the situation changed, but because my heart had shifted. As the sun set that evening, I stood beside Raghav on the balcony. "Are you still afraid?" I asked him softly. He thought for a moment. "Less," he replied. "Why?" "Because I see you standing." I smiled faintly. Sometimes strength does not come from being needed. Sometimes it comes from learning to stand even when no one is watching. The morning after that call felt different. Not brighter, not dramatic, just steadier. For the first time in many months, I did not wake up with a heavy question in my chest. Instead, I woke up with a quiet decision. If life had placed us here, then we would live here fully. Not as people waiting, but as people still breathing, still capable of giving something to the world. I began waking up with purpose, not just out of habit. After tea, I joined the walking group in the garden. At first, I walked silently beside others. Then slowly, conversations began. "What did you cook in your younger days?" one woman asked me. I smiled, and I spoke. For the first time in a long while, someone wanted to hear my stories. Not out of duty, but curiosity. A week later, the activity board announced something new. Stories sharing evening, volunteers needed. I stood looking at the board for several minutes. Then I wrote my name. When I told Raghav, he looked surprised. "You'll speak in front of everyone?" "Why not?" I said softly. "I have lived long enough to say something." He smiled gently. "That you have." That evening, about 15 residents gathered. Some with walking sticks, some with hearing aids, all with eyes that had seen decades. When it was my turn, my hands trembled slightly. "My name is Sushma," I began softly. "I am a mother, a wife, and now a learner again." A few people smiled. I told them about raising Arjun, about rainy nights, about packing our home into 2 suitcases. I did not speak with bitterness. I spoke with honesty. When I finished, there was silence. Then gentle clapping. Afterward, Mrs. D'Souza came to me. "You spoke my heart," she whispered. In that moment, I realized something powerful. Pain shared becomes lighter. Raghav also began changing slowly. He joined the gardening group. At first, he only watched. Then he started planting small saplings. One afternoon, I saw him kneeling carefully in the soil. He looked peaceful. "What are you planting?" I asked. "Something that will grow," he replied. "And we may not see it fully." He smiled. "But that doesn't mean it shouldn't be planted." I understood. We had planted our son. Now we could plant something else. One evening, Arjun called on video. He looked tired but excited. "We got the visa," he said. Mira waved from behind him. "When are you leaving?" I asked calmly. "Next month." There was a pause. Then he said something unexpected. "Ma, you seem different."
"How?"
"Stronger." I smiled softly. Maybe I stopped waiting. He looked at me carefully. "I was worried you would feel abandoned." I shook my head gently. Feeling left behind and feeling unloved are not the same. He was quiet. "I never stopped loving you," he said. "I know, I replied. And for the first time, I felt that knowledge settle peacefully inside me. Before leaving the country, Arjun and Mira visited us one last time. They brought sweets again. This time, there was less tension. More understanding. We sat in the garden together. Ma, Mira said, softly. Thank you for not making this harder for us. I looked at her. You are building your life. That is not a crime. She nodded, her eyes slightly wet. Arjun held Raghav's hand.
Baba.
I hope you are proud of me. Raghav looked at him steadily. I am proud of the boy you were. And the man you became. Arjun swallowed. That was enough. When they were about to leave, Arjun hugged me tightly. Longer than usual. I'll call every week, he promised. I smiled. Call when you can. Live when you must. He looked at me, surprised again. You've changed, Ma. No, I said softly. I've just understood. The first week after they moved abroad was quiet. But not heavy. Yes, I missed hearing his voice in the same time zone. Yes, I checked my phone often. But I did not measure love by minutes anymore. Instead, I focused on small things. Morning sunlight. Freshly watered plants. The way Raghav laughed during card games with other residents. One evening, I took out the letter I had written months ago. The one I never sent. I read it again. Then I tore it gently. Not out of anger, but because those words no longer fit. Instead, I wrote a new one. Dear Arjun, we are well. We are learning new things. Do not carry guilt in your suitcase. We did not raise you to stay small. We raised you to fly. This time, I sent it. Weeks passed. Video calls became our new normal. Sometimes the connection froze. Sometimes the audio broke. But love still moved through the screen. One evening after a call, I realized something important. We had not lost our son. We had simply lost the version of life we expected. And expectation, more than distance, causes suffering. When expectation softens, peace enters quietly. One golden evening, Raghav and I sat on the balcony again. The garden below was greener now. The saplings he planted had tiny leaves. Do you still feel left behind? He asked me gently. I thought carefully. No, I said. I feel placed. Placed where? Where we are meant to learn. Something new. He nodded slowly. What did you learn? That love is not measured by proximity. And that parents must sometimes release their children twice. Once when they grow up, and again when they move on. Raghav squeezed my hand. We did well, he said quietly. Yes, I replied. We did. If you are listening to my story, I want to tell you something. Children do not stop loving their parents. They simply become busy building the lives we once dreamed for them. And parents must learn to find meaning beyond being needed. It is not easy. It hurts. But hurt does not have to turn into bitterness. We can choose understanding. We can choose dignity. We can choose to keep loving without holding tightly. Life moved on. Yes.
But so did we.
And sometimes, moving quietly forward is its own kind of strength.